Jacob Henderson was a man who had lived through wars, recessions, heartbreak, success, and a long marriage that ended only with his wife's passing. At 82 years old, he sat on the front porch of his modest house in Cedar Grove, South Carolina, sipping a cup of lukewarm tea while watching the breeze rustle the trees. His grandkids often called him Gramps, and his neighbors called him Mr. Jacob, but most people in town simply referred to him as the wise old man with kind eyes. On a summer afternoon, a young documentary filmmaker named Lauren Mitchell arrived at Jacob's porch. She was in her late 20s, curious and warm-hearted, and had traveled across the country interviewing elderly folks for a series called What I Wish I Knew. When she asked Jacob if he'd be open to talking, he smiled gently and nodded. "You might have to stay a while," he said with a chuckle. "A whole lifetime's worth of lessons doesn't come in short sentences." Lauren pressed record on her tiny camera, and Jacob began to speak. What followed wasn't a lecture. It was a winding, heartfelt, and raw reflection of a life fully lived. And every word he shared could change how anyone saw the world. He began by talking about time. "When you're young," Jacob said, "you feel like time is endless. You think you'll have time to fix things, to say what you mean, to chase dreams you keep putting off. But time doesn't slow down for anyone. It's the one currency you'll never get back. I wasted years trying to be someone I wasn't, just to impress people I don't even remember today." Lauren leaned in, listening as the birds chirped softly in the background. Jacob continued, "You know what I regret the most? Not listening enough. When my kids were little, I thought I was doing the right thing by working long hours, giving them a good house and nice clothes. But they didn't want toys. They wanted me. My presence, my stories, my time. And I only figured that out after they grew up and started doing the same thing with their own kids." He paused to take a sip of tea, his hands slightly trembling. "Your 20s are for learning," he said. "Your 30s are for building. Your 40s are for reflection. And your 50s, that's when you should start letting go of the need to be right all the time. Pride ruins more relationships than betrayal. I lost my best friend, Chuck, over something we didn't agree on politically. We didn't speak for 10 years. He passed before we could reconcile." Lauren's eyes moistened, but she kept the camera steady. Jacob smiled faintly. "Love. That's the only thing that matters in the end. Not how much money you had, not how many cars you drove, not even what job title you had on your business card. It's who you loved, how you loved them, and whether they knew it." He talked about his wife, Eleanor. They met in high school, married at 22, and built a life from scratch. "She was my mirror," Jacob said. "She showed me who I was, who I could be. I didn't always treat her the way she deserved. I was stubborn, closed off, and slow to apologize. But she stayed. She stayed because she believed in me more than I believed in myself. When she passed 5 years ago, I realized just how loud silence can be." Lauren asked him how he got through that grief. Jacob nodded slowly. "Grief is love with no place to go. So I started putting that love into the world. I started mentoring teenagers at the local church. I helped build a community garden. I showed up. That's the secret, really. Just show up for people." He talked about failure next. "I failed more times than I succeeded," he admitted. "I started a hardware store in the 70s that went under in a year. I got fired from my job at the lumber mill after an argument with my boss. But each time life pushed me toward something better. Sometimes what feels like an ending is just a redirection." Lauren asked him if he had any advice for people who feel lost. Jacob chuckled. "If you're lost, it means you're moving. That's better than being stuck. We all feel lost sometimes. It's okay to not have the answers. But keep moving, keep asking questions. And don't isolate yourself. Pain is quieter when it's shared." He shifted in his chair and looked out across the yard where the sun was starting to set. "People chase happiness like it's some finish line. But happiness isn't a destination. It's a byproduct of purpose. Find what you're good at, do it with heart, and serve others with it. The rest will come." He told her about his son, Kevin, who had struggled with addiction. We spent years trying to fix him, until one day I realized he didn't need fixing. He needed understanding. I started listening more and controlling less. He's been sober 7 years now. We have dinner every Sunday. I call that grace. Jacob went quiet for a few moments. Then he said something that struck Lauren to her core. You're not meant to be everything for everyone, but you are meant to be something for someone. Don't waste your life trying to please a world that doesn't know your heart. Find your people, your purpose, your rhythm, and dance with it. They sat in silence for a while, as the sky turned orange and purple. He then shared something deeply personal. I used to be afraid of dying. Now I'm more afraid of not living well. Every morning that I wake up I smile. Not because life is perfect, but because I get another shot at being kind, being curious, being better than I was yesterday. Lauren asked if he had a final piece of wisdom for her viewers. Jacob nodded and said, "Don't wait for life to teach you the hard way. Say what you mean. Hug people longer. Laugh more. Stay humble. Stay soft. The world will try to harden you, but don't let it. There's real strength in tenderness." As she turned off the camera, Lauren felt like her own soul had just been gently shaken awake. She didn't want to leave, and neither did Jacob seem eager for her to go. They talked a little longer about everything and nothing. Before she left, he handed her a small piece of folded paper. On it, in his neat handwriting, were these words: "Live fully, love loudly, and forgive quickly. You don't get do-overs, just days. Make them count." Lauren carried that note with her every day after. She printed it and framed it in her apartment, and she read it aloud to her future children on their birthdays. The video she created from that interview went viral, not because it was flashy or dramatic, but because truth has a way of resonating deeply. Millions of people heard Jacob's voice, saw his eyes filled with age and kindness, and felt their own perspectives shift. People from all walks of life, young, old, rich, struggling, cynical, hopeful, found a piece of themselves in Jacob's story. And long after he was gone, his words lived on in hearts across the world. After these life lessons, people truly did see life in a whole new light.